Ladies and gentlemen, I lived with the real Wolf of Wall Street, and here is what I learned. You have seen the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, but I lived with the real Wolf, not Leonardo DiCaprio's version of him, the actual Jordan Belfort himself. And I wasn't just there watching from the sidelines. No, I was his chief marketing officer. I ran all of his marketing campaigns. I built all of his funnels. And firsthand, I got to learn what makes him one of the most polarizing and unique and crazy individuals alive. Thank God he had changed at this point in his life. But in this video, I'm gonna break down three things for you. First, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I ended up living with Jordan Belfort and working directly with him on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, I'm gonna talk about who he is today outside of Hollywood's dramatization of him. And third, I'm gonna give you 7 lessons that I learned from him that don't just apply to sales, but also apply to entrepreneurship, leadership, and of course, business. And if you want to actually build a business that you can scale, that you own, this video is gonna be absolutely gold for you. Now, let's rewind. Many of you know from the movie that Jordan was earning over $1 million a week. When he took Steve Madden public, he literally made $22 million in less than 10 minutes. Some parts of the movie are very accurate and other parts are, of course, dramatized by Hollywood. For example, if you remember the scene when Leonardo DiCaprio is playing Jordan Belfort in the movie and he's standing up in front of thousands of people in the Stratton Oakmont office and they pan the camera over, Jordan says they're gonna need a wrecking ball to get me out of here. Well, here's the truth. That never actually happened. In reality, Jordan wasn't even in the office. He was paying Danny, who is Donnie Azoff in the movie, $12 million a year to run Stratton Oakmont, while Jordan and his wife were floating around the world on a $100 million yacht. And that's why Jordan Belfort ended up only serving 2 years, and Danny ended up serving 4 years, double the time, because he was the man in charge of the actual operations. Now, here's the crazy thing. The chaos that you've seen in the movie, it was actually worse in real life. And before I go any further into this video, I wanna make something very clear. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. I've never even had a beer. So by no means in this video am I gonna endorse Jordan's behavior that you saw in the movie. What I will say is Jordan made mistakes. He was young, he was making a lot of money, and he paid the price for those mistakes. And if you operate the same way today in your business, you're gonna end up exactly where JB ended up, and that is behind bars. But what I do want to tell you is I lived with Jordan. I hung out with his family daily. I didn't just see what not to do, I also seen what to do. And that's what I want to share with you today. I didn't just stumble into Jordan Belfort's world. I didn't get lucky. I bought my way in step by step. First, I bought every single program that he had. And I didn't dabble, I went all in on these programs like Jordan Belfort was watching me, because if he went to his LMS, he could probably actually see my progress and how serious and how committed I was to learning the art of the straight line persuasion. Now, at the bottom of his website, after I finished all of his courses, I went to the bottom and I noticed there was a little hyperlink at the very bottom in the footer of the website that had the word affiliate. I clicked on this little button, I went to a website, I filled out an application, and it was a real simple move, but this is exactly what started a chain of reaction. A week later, my phone rings, and on the other end, it's Peter Galetta, one of the original Stratton Oakmont brokers. Now, here's what most people don't know. In the movie, Peter's character was the guy who killed himself in the bathtub. That was the way that he was portrayed, but Peter never killed himself, and that never happened. The truth is, Peter left Stratton Oakmont because Danny and Jordan and Peter actually met years ago before Stratton at a penny stock firm where they were both selling penny stocks. And when Jordan met Danny and brought Danny in, they got super close and it kind of closed Peter out. So Peter ended up getting pissed off and leaving Stratton before Stratton was even really a thing. It was still in its infancy stage. Years later, when the Wolf of Wall Street movie came out, Jordan and Peter actually reconnected at the movie preview. So when Peter called me, it wasn't just some random sales guy. It was one of the guys who had been there from the very beginning with Jordan Belfort, and he was calling me to close me on Jordan's programs, not realizing that I had already bought them all. This call turned into a relationship, and I ended up flying out to New York City. I met with Peter in person. At the time, I had maybe $40,000 to my name. I dropped $20,000 in a single week, just showing this guy the time of his life. But listen, it wasn't money spent, it was money invested, because I knew if I could win Peter, I could win Jordan. And by the end of this event, I was, 22, 21 years old. I was on the phone with Jordan Belfort, and then I heard Peter Galletta tell Jordan, we need this guy, and suddenly I was in. Weeks later, Jordan asked me to build a marketing plan for his entire business. And instead of just putting some BS together, I treated it like it was my own company. I didn't hold back, I didn't cut corners, I went all in and gave it all I had for 12 hours a day for a week straight. And once I delivered the plan to JB via email, I didn't even get a thank you. What I got was a plane ticket and an offer letter to be his chief marketing officer.
Hey guys, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street here, and I'm on the way to Malibu with my team here. I got my son Bo, an animal marketer.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Dakota, another animal marketer here, right?
At the time, I had a home, I had a family, I had just got out of a 90-day marriage, and to be quite frank with you, I left it all behind and left everything to pursue this opportunity. But I will tell you that one risk, it literally changed everything for me, because stepping into JB's world opened doors to celebrities. It built relationships with A-Rod and all these high caliber people that I still have today, and it became the foundation of my entire agency, Luxvoni.com. Now, a lot of people think you might get lucky here, but here's the deal. Opportunities, they're not found, they're created, and I created this. So let's talk about who JB really is today and forget about the movie version of him as a 90s stockbroker, throwing parties and yachts and all the crazy things he did. What I want to talk about with Jordan is he's a rebuilt entrepreneur at this point of his life. This man went through a collapse. He made a lot of mistakes. He went to prison. He didn't get to see his kids. There was a lot of shame. But unlike majority of people, Jordan decided to rebuild. And he knew that he wasn't going to be able to do it perfectly, not without controversy, not without his past possibly holding him back and people portraying him as a fraud. But that ability to bounce back today and have an 8-figure company like he does, I want everyone on this video to learn from that. It's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward, and that's how you win. And this is exactly what Jordan embodied. And I can tell you firsthand, I lived with him, I lived with his wife at the time, Ann. I also lived with his stepson, Bowen, in Hermosa Beach. I met all of his children. I've been around his family. I've sat across from tables of dozens of his celebrity friends. And I know who Jordan Belfort is on an intimate level. And I can tell you who's portrayed in the movie is not the guy that he is today by any means. So now let's jump into what I learned. Now, understand this isn't theory, this is firsthand. One of the first lessons that I learned from JB was all around certainty. Jordan always said the same thing over and over. It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And your job is to sell confidence in an inconfident world. He always said sales is the transfer of certainty. But here's the entrepreneurial truth. Certainty doesn't just close deals. It creates collective buy-ins from your team, from your investors, from your clients, and they borrow these beliefs from you when they don't have it themselves. And if you hesitate, they hesitate. If you are rock solid, they move mountains for you. And I saw this firsthand with Jordan. He could walk into any damn room that you could think of, a room full of skeptics, a room full of people that did not like JB. And I'm gonna tell you, within minutes, they were leaning in, they were nodding, they were buying into his vision and taking photos with him. Not because of logic, but because the certainty that he brought into the room was freaking unshakable. Another lesson that I learned was communication. Jordan drilled tonality into me nonstop. It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. But with being an entrepreneur, communication is a form of leverage, and it can multiply your leverage. You're not just influencing one customer, you're influencing someone who can influence 10 more. So how do we turn them into brand ambassadors of our brand to where they push us forward. The way you speak sets off a chain of reactions. It shapes culture inside of your company, it builds a perception in your market, and it even impacts investor confidence. I remember watching him rehearse a speech over and over and over, and the dude would change one single word with one single pause until it hit maximum impact. That's how serious he was about communication, and it worked every single time. The room would move when Jordan spoke. They would engage, they would be locked in. Jordan taught me that communication is the key. Jordan also taught me to teach data as the lie detector of business. People lie, teams exaggerate, markets are super noisy, but the numbers tell a clear story, and they're there not to feed ego, they're there to tell the truth. It shows you if something is working, it reveals what your business's reality is right now, and it shows who's living a fantasy and who's living in reality. I watched him grill his sales team over and over. He never cared about excuses, he only cared about numbers. And if the data didn't back you up, you lost credibility instantly with JB. And what this did for me, just like in marketing, it also sharpened me to run my business the same way. Numbers first, story second. And another big one that I learned from Jordan was something called pattern interrupts. Jordan could freeze a room with one sudden pause in his speech. And if you're an entrepreneur, these same principles apply, because if you sound like everyone else, guess what? You're invisible. Pattern breaks aren't just about attention. They create new categories in that attention. And I watched him do this on stage with crowds of people who were on their phones, and he would drop a joke, drop a line, drop a pause, and suddenly thousands of people would look up and he would regain their attention in seconds. Suddenly, every eye in the room would look at him. That's the power of breaking patterns. It works in sales, it works in leadership, and it works in markets. I also learned from Jordan about the power of owning your story. Jordan never hid from his past. Most entrepreneurs that went through what he went through, they would try to sanitize their past, and it's really a big mistake, because typically the story that you're afraid to tell is usually the one that makes people want to follow you the most. And that's the difference. Your story can be your prison, keeping you stuck in shame, or it can be your power. And that is the key thing to making people respect you. Jordan overcame that. Jordan learned from his past and he embraced it, and it literally became his brand. Instead of running from the Wolf of Wall Street, he owned it, and he taught me that even the darkest chapters of your life can be reframed into a state that is there to empower you and not limit you. Another thing that stood out with me when it came to JB was his obsession with speed. Jordan always preached speed in everything that we did, and here's the truth. Speed is the only weapon that neutralizes the bigger players. You don't have their money, you don't have their team, but what you can do is outpace them and out-execute them, because they're so big, they move slow. Think about a big boat. It takes a long time to turn a big boat, but if we're in a little small boat, we can make that boat shift much faster, and that is how you do that in entrepreneurship. With Jordan, he was always about launching offers fast. And if it was up to him, we would launch a new offer every single day. But since it was up to me, I'd limit him to one offer every single week. But I'm telling you firsthand, we would launch these offers, build the funnels, record the videos, and do them weekly. And that was his superpower. You see, most entrepreneurs think themselves into irrelevance. He showed me that speed beats perfection every single time. And the faster you move, the quicker you fail. And the quicker you fail, the quicker you win. But maybe the most important lesson of all that I learned from Jordan was about money itself. Fast money goes fast. Jordan embodied that truth. Millions made overnight, millions gone the next day. And as an entrepreneur, instant gratification, it will absolutely kill you in your business. The ones who last decades, not just years, they play a different game. They build empires brick by brick. They set up their businesses to outlive market swings, and they outlast their competitors because of it, and they always play the long game. The same speed that made Jordan rich also burned it all down. So this is a little bit of a polarizing thing here where you have to hold two different things of the spectrum in the same exact hand, which is kind of hard for people to do. But what he taught me was build it right. Build it steady, build it slow, build it for decades, not weekends. And that's why every move that I make today is about the long game. I'm not talking about money today. I'm talking about money that compounds for the next 20 to 30 to 40 years and doesn't blow up my reputation in the process. So that is the real story of living with Jordan Belfort and the 7 lessons that I pulled that still shape how I run business today. It is communication, it is certainty, it is data, it's pattern interrupts, it is speed, and it is taking your story and turning it into a superpower for yourself and also playing the long game. So here's my question to you. Out of those 7 lessons from this video, which one hits you the hardest right now? What's the one that you are struggling with the most? Drop it in the comments below and don't sit quiet. This isn't the Luxvoni show, it's our show. This is a place for entrepreneurs to share raw truths and bold perspectives and voice their opinions to the world. So be a part of it. Put your comments directly below. And listen, for you folks who are looking to scale, you want to get results like we did for JB and scaled his business to 8 figures. We can probably do the same for you, but we can't do it for you if you don't head over to luxvoni.com and schedule a call with us. Be great. Enjoy the day. We'll see you on the next one.